It's super overwhelming. The idea of it has been something that I've dreamed about my whole life.
But I've noticed that there is a real excitement about the American Broadway tradition.
I feel like it's trust over everything.
This is a funny little backdrop because this is before we're like in previews. We've done performances for audiences over 20 times, I think, or something like that. We've probably spent
48 hours.
Yeah,
less.
Just a couple. Yeah. This is so proto what we are now. The show looks very different than this. None of us have our wigs on. But I think the heart is there, I suppose, so I don't want to misdirect it too much. But,
the heart and the plant.
Yes, the heart, and most importantly, Hua Boon,
who's featured prominently.
the main star of our show. He couldn't make it today. He's already on the private jet. Yeah, he's partying on a yacht somewhere.
Yes, we'll give Hua Boon his moment later on. I feel like the show is straightforward to explain, but also sort of defies description in so many ways. I would love to hear when you're giving kind of your elevator pitch on it to friends and people considering coming, how do you describe maybe Happy Ending?
There's what the story is, and then there is what the show is about. Those aren't necessarily the same things. Thematically, it's kind of about, two elderly people in hospice that decide to break out of the situation to go connect with their family. Now that is a really grim, depressing construct for a show, so why would you ever want to see a musical comedy about that? However, they've somehow displaced this idea of the inexorable end of things, the coming to grips with very difficult things about love and life and why we choose to do the things we do, into this really charming, kind little world, which is this futurescape with helper robots that are not too dissimilar to our own iPhones and digital assistants. I always point to the fact that people all over the world keep phones, old phones, obsolete technology. We give life to inanimate objects that are lifeless because we give them life, because we put stock in their value to our lives. And so what happens when those objects become more human-like and sentient and aware, and what will that be like in the future? So my elevator pitch is if the elevator got stuck and you were stuck with me. I will go off on many different tangents about what the show is about.
I'm realizing as we're talking that the record player that your character is so attached to falls into this sort of theme as well of something that a lot of people consider obsolete, but so many people really ascribe like emotional worth to.
Sure.
I think part of what's so exciting about the show is this is a truly new musical. It's not a concept based on prior IP. So refreshing on Broadway. It's possible. And both of you are originating roles on Broadway for the first time. Yes. So tell me a little bit about what that feels like. It must be very exciting.
And a Broadway
and
debut.
Helen's Broadway debut, yes.
So it's 2 for 1.
Yeah. It's super overwhelming. The idea of it has been something that I've dreamed about my whole life, and to have it come into fruition with this particular story, with this particular group of people, I just feel abundance. I feel so lucky and grateful. And then to also wholeheartedly believe in the story that you're telling is just so many more cherries on the sundae of.
It's the bonus round.
Yeah, it's the bonus.
We feel really, 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 really lucky. And I know that sounds like just what every actor is supposed to say, but I wholeheartedly believe that this show is and has always been such a special little gem, with or without us. As grateful as I am that I'm there, I, despite myself, can acknowledge the fact that I think this was like a train bound for glory that Michael happened to shout out to, like, get on, and we're on this train. We're like, this is an amazing train. Holy shit, thank you for having us on this train. But it was always going somewhere special. So as far as originating something is concerned, this newness is actually quite freeing. I've only gone in for other roles on Broadway, roles that are, for lack of a better word, iconic. They have their own history and legacy. And I'm not saying I'm iconic, I'm just saying Little Shop of Horrors, Hedwig, like these are things that people know and love that I grew up loving, much like this show, were great with or without me. I now go in there trying to do my own thing and make it my own, and there's the excitement of the challenge, but also the pressure of living up to a certain thing and wanting to do your own thing. So you kind of are in this pressurized situation, whereas this, it's an open canvas for not only us, but for the audience. They don't have any preconceived notions. That's the best thing about this. If everyone's hearts and minds are open to a new experience, which is so rare for both performers and audiences. So we get to kind of experience this for the first time together. And I honestly can't remember the last time that I got to do that in a
As an
Broadway
audience
house.
member,
Yeah,
even.
yeah.
And I think it shows in how, just from the audience I was a part of, and how engaged the audience is.
Right.
They
don't know what's going to happen.
You really hear reactions happening in tandem, people laughing, you hear people sobbing a little. My husband commented it's the first Broadway show he's been to in a while where he heard no one cough the entire time, which is
Wow.
kind of amazing, and I didn't even realize.
Well, winter's
it until the
coming.
end.
You know,
There you go.
it's not.
There's
it's not
always
their
a
fault.
chance it'll
Yeah,
happen, but
listen.
that's kind of a miracle.
But they're
at a
really
Broadway
listening.
show. Yeah,
They're
they're really
really-
engaged
Yeah.
and in it, which is really incredible.
When I'm sitting by your side,
Seeing how you frown.
watching how you try.
You mentioned the composers and book writers Will Aronson and Hugh Park, who are also making their Broadway debuts here. How did you kind of first come into contact with their work, and what did you first think of the music when you heard it?
Well, I first heard about this mainly from Michael Arden, who has been a friend for a long time, and
Who's the director? of
Yes,
the
the
show,
director
we
of our
should say.
show. Michael Arden, who's a visionary in his own right. His partner Andy is my classmate from Michigan, where we also share an alma mater.
Yes.
So we've been in each other's lives for a long time, and at the same time, one of our lead producers, Jeffrey Richards, I did American Buffalo with, so this has been kind of on my radar. And I'm a big believer in the fact that musicals live and die by their music and lyrics. In a musical theater space,
Yes.
gotta have good music. So I remember listening to that and just being so swept away by it, and how it rides this very difficult line that that a lot of people that I admire and appreciate can do flawlessly, which is the tightrope between sophistication and accessibility. Those aren't always the same thing. Sometimes it veers one side or the other, and it feels imbalanced. But there is a really distinct know-how of this art form that has some natural laws that it's wise to abide by, that really make a story effective. Audiences are smarter than perhaps we give ourselves credit for as an audience. You feel things because there are just things that work, and they know how to do that very well. So when I heard it, I was very taken, and I've continued to be exponentially more and more taken with the expertise that is in this music.
There were rumblings about readings and stuff,
Right.
and it has had a really wonderful buzz about it from the first time it has happened and it had been come to fruition.
We have
but
lots of friends and colleagues that
yeah.
have done readings over
Yes.
the past 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So you'd heard about it.
Yeah. But I just got a tape for it, and then my first in-person audition callback situation was a chemistry read with Darren.
It's wild.
And then the next day I found out that I got it. So it was a very fast process. Normally with auditions and things, it takes months of building that rapport and working on the music and stuff. But I don't know that. I mean, you tell me, but it felt very easy in that first chemistry read. It just felt like the music at least came pretty naturally. The character itself came pretty naturally. So I just felt like it was such a fast ride, and I just had to keep saying yes and keep being like, are you sure you want me here? This is crazy.
That's kind of how I felt
wild.
too.
This had a very unique path to Broadway. It started in Seoul in 2016. It has had productions in Japan and China as well. Something I've been so interested to learn as I've followed the show's progression over the years is the fact that musicals are huge in South Korea.
Massive, yeah.
That Broadway style musicals and musicals of all kind of shapes and sizes are very popular with audiences there. And I think in the music industry, we obviously know so much about the dominance of K-pop, but this is a whole other side of the Korean music industry that I think is really fascinating. Was that something the two of you were kind of learning about as this was going along too, or were you aware?
I've always been keenly aware of that. I
Yeah.
mean, just Southeast Asia in general has, and this is a whole other musicological, anthropological discussion that I've always been fascinated with. But for some reason, in some parts of the world you can look at numbers and streaming or whatever. For some reason, some genres just take to things, and there's a lot of things that you can maybe pick apart as to why this is the case. But I've noticed that there is a real excitement about the American Broadway tradition. And I've only picked up on this because of not only my travels in those parts of the world, but because of doing Hedwig. Hedwig has a very, very popular presence in places like South Korea and Japan and the Philippines. I can't tell you why, but I just have been aware of it, and it's a beautiful thing for Broadway. I'm very happy to know that the Broadway thing, it goes beyond Midtown New York City, and regional tours around the United States and the West End. It can exist in a way that doesn't necessarily have to have the same cultural background, but has the same desire to experience the heart and soul of it. That wasn't a soul pun, but I wish it was.
Yeah. And Will and Hugh have other musicals that have been produced.
do,
as
yes,
well.
they have.
Like we should start the pipeline.
Yeah.
World within my room, the perfect place to explore from.
You mentioned the chemistry read that you both had. So much of the show depends upon the audience really being locked into sort of the journey of your relationship and the watching its evolution and really believing it. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of setting the foundation for that and what kind of offstage bonding has to happen for it to work so well on stage?
I feel like it's trust over everything. It's like the way that we started rehearsals was very like, we're gonna be open to building this together and letting each other fail in front of each other and letting like the rehearsal space and building the show, let it be kind of a safe place to try things, and like we're joking all the time. It's
My love language
whatever.
is not taking things serious. The things I take the most seriously, I don't take seriously just because I obviously love it. I think once I realized that Shell and I were going to be spending a bit of time together, I was very like insistent upon us, like, breaking bread, having a couple mimosas, and just hanging out and chatting shit, and it's been fun ever since. I mean, art does imitate life a little bit. We both are little helper bots from the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
Although she's definitely a Model 5 and I'm definitely a Model 3. I mean, there are things about my experience of the world that are a bit more dated. I'm still running on Windows 98 and we've got, iOS 40 over here. So,
Right.
there are things that we can learn from each other. And the comparison I always use is, for my whole life, I've always been like the underclassman. I have like real like younger brother syndrome. I'm always trying to appeal to and impress and like earn my stripes with like the elders. And now that I'm an upperclassman, it's a weird sort of crossfade in my life where I'm like getting used to that role because I have this sort of imposter syndrome that everybody has. Whatever I do know, perhaps I try and to be additive with that in whatever way I can. In the way that Shell knows things that I don't know, and we kind of do that to each other, and the wheel goes on. And I've already tried to prep her for the inevitable when she will be in my position, going back to the University of Michigan, and there will be young Helen J. Shen hopefuls that will be looking up to her, and looking for her wisdom.
I think that the show is so indicative of the ways that Broadway can move forward, seeing Korean very matter-of-factly projected on screen, the way that you trust that the audience is going to connect with this sort of, like you said, little gem of a story. I really hope that it's playing for a long time.
Me too, man. From your mouth to God's ears. It's got a good repeatability too. I gotta say, there's not a lot of shows that I'll see or do where I'm like, I would see this more than once.
Same.
I think like a lot of really wonderful, enduring stories, there is a repeatability to this.
We're going to do rapid fire, beat the buzzer questions. So you're going to have 60 seconds to answer these questions, A or B.
And then is it like, do we have to say at the same time? Like,
Should we try?
yeah.
Okay. We should try.
This will be fun for all of us.
Perfect.
We're going to do as many as we can in 60 seconds. Okay. But please take it seriously. So we can start.
Well, I told you about things that I like. I'm not going to take it seriously at all.
Start the timer now. Okay, play or musical?
Musical.
Past or present?
Present.
Glinda or Elphaba?
Glinda.
Podcast or series?
Series.
Singing or dancing?
Singing.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Yes, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Coffee now. Tea my whole life, but new thing. New thing.
Phantom or Les Mis?
Les Mis.
Les Mis.
Sorry.
Sorry, Phantom.
Sorry, Phantom.
We don't get to give our reasons, which is really
I
frustrating.
know.
LA or New York?
New York.
Don't ever make me choose.
Sweet or spicy?
Sweet.
Spicy.
Comedy or drama?
Drama.
Comedy.
Ooh. Text or
It's all a comedy. That's the joke.
Everything's comedy.
And
Everything's drama. Sorry.
Text or FaceTime?
FaceTime.
Go out or stay in? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, FaceTime for sure. This is easy. You and I can say this at the same time. What is it?
Go out or stay in?
Go out.